Hi everybody, it's Owen from farfaway.org. This is the third and final battle in the Battle for Maldon campaign that myself and Phil were playing. So the first two games resulted in losses for the Vikings, well, obviously wins for the Anglo-Saxons. And in this final game we're playing Sacred Ground. So the objective here is to occupy the terrain pieces in the middle of the board there, so the two woods and the hill. Depending on the quality of troop you have occupying the terrain, you gain different points at the end of your opponent's turn. So basically your opponent has a turn to try and push you back out. So Phil's on the bottom there. He could only take Hearthguard with his Warlord in this game as part of the scenario conditions. So he took 6 points worth, which is 6 4-man blocks, which you can bind into 3 units of 8. On the top then I have a bit of a mix. I have 3 points worth of Hearthguard, which I can made into 2 units. I have 2 units of Bondi, a unit of Thralls, and then my Warlords up on the top left there. So Phil had the first turn, and he took the very sensible approach of trying to push his troops as quickly into the terrain as possible. So that's where all the fury comes from there, or the fatigue comes from there. So on the left side, you can see he's after getting a number of Hearthguard up into that wood, and on the right he's not that far from getting guys into the wood as well. So on my turn, pretty similar. I pushed up as hard as I could, and again that's where my fatigue comes from. So I get a good block of guys, just warriors on the right hand side into the wood, and everyone else gets up close. And at the end of this first turn, Phil scored 8 points for having 8 Hearthguard in the unit, or sorry, in the wood on the left. So then we come into a bit more kind of jockeying for position. Phil had a nice battleboard ability that allowed him to remove his fatigue, so he decided he was in a pretty decent position. We've seen in previous games how killer fatigue can be, so decided to use the fatigue, use that ability to remove the fatigue. So on my turn, I used my Njord ability to remove my fatigue on the left. I swung my Hearthguard, the guys with the axes on the left, in and attacked Phil's, but I bounced. One person was killed in each unit, so therefore on a draw the attacker loses and has to pull back. On the right side I moved more Hearthguard into the unit. So all told, both armies looking fairly fresh, relatively little fatigue out there, and decent amount of points being scored. Phil's picking up more points here again. So Phil again is keeping an eye on the scenario, so moved the central unit up onto the hill, or as many of them as could get on the top. I think he actually got them all up there, remembering to stay out of the 2-inch bubble of enemies. You can't move within 2 inches of an enemy unless you're moving to engage them. On the right I think he shuffled the guys into the woods slightly, so for me it came to see if I could attack them out. So on the left hand side, I decided that's where I'd go for it. I pushed my warriors into the Phil's Hearthguard up on the hill. They bounced. I think they killed one guy there, for the loss of, was it 3 or 4 at least. So that really hurt. Bit more success with my Hearthguard in the wood there on the left as well. They pushed into Phil's and push them back out of the wood. So I've got a decent few guys into the wood, including my Warlord, which is important. The Warlord scores 3 points for being in the wood at the end of your opponent's turn, so at the end of Phil's turn. So Phil pushed back. He managed to kill a couple of my Hearthguard, pushed them out. He consolidated on top of the hill. So he's in a good position, but my Warlord's in the wood there, so I'm picking up some scoring points. And on the right hand side I'm still doing pretty well. So a bit of a stalemate on the right. So I moved my guys into kind of a defensive position around my Warlord here. That could have been after swinging out for attack. Yeah, so my Warlord had to go for Phil's in this turn. Plowed forward into him, but just couldn't manage to do the damage. I wasn't really in a position to bring the Hearthguard well in on the fight. So I bounced and took a couple killed a couple of guys off as casualties to keep my Warlord surviving. So Phil pushed his guys off the hill here and killed the unit of warriors. There was only 2 left in that, and that added fatigue onto my guys when a unit's wiped out within M, I think it is. You add a fatigue on, so I'm getting fairly high in fatigue on the left hand side there. But with my battleboard abilities, I was able to drain most of it off. I think I had Njord and also Fjord, both of which allow you to, at different points in your activations, remove fatigue. And that's what I did, and I went against those Hearthguard that had attacked. I managed to kill all bar one. Really would have liked to have taken them out. I mean, removing the last guy removes another Saga dice, so it does count. The reason my Warlord didn't charge his this time is I couldn't make it into melee with him without leaving other people's melee ranges, so there was kind of a funny thing going on there. So I wanted to go for him because he had relatively little guard around them, but killing off that many Hearthguard was good enough. So Phil's scoring opportunities are reducing quite rapidly on the left hand side here, while I'm still picking up fairly steady points on the right. So Phil had to charge my Warlord. So he charged in. I had to sacrifice the guys around the Warlord, and I fell back. Phil also pulled the guy that was on the hill back slightly, fearing my archers. I think my archers took pot shots here, but didn't manage to kill him. I think I rested with my Warlord as well. On the right hand side, we must have missed a melee at some stage. Because one of my warriors is dead and one of Phil's Hearthguard are dead as well. So on his turn, Phil consolidated his position. I think he intended to charge me, and I used the fatigue that was on his Warlord to drop his movement by a step. Because he was already in train, he was already moving slow, so that dropped him to moving very slow. So with the 2 inches, Phil just pulled backwards, which made absolute sense. On the right hand side, things are still staying pretty static, but you can see things have changed here. I moved my archers forward to take shots against the guy on the hill, completely failed to do anything to him there. On the right hand side, I managed to push Phil's unit out of the wood for no loss, so that wasn't too bad. On the left, Phil again just consolidated into wood. Just the wood is better protection from the archers. On the right, then Phil's unit tried to charge into the woods again, but they bounced off my Hearthguard. So I'm picking up decent points at this stage of the game. And this is the final turn. And I think I pulled my guys forward, just trying to kill off one of Phil's units. So I pulled my archers forward, failed to do that. So the game ended up very tight. At the very end, I had scored 70 control points, and Phil had scored 69. So, a difference of 1 is a very tight game. So the final game of the campaign is a win for the Vikings, but all told, with their previous losses, I think a net draw is the very best they could expect. So they haven't really got much of a foothold in Maldon, and I'm not sure I've really earned the Danegeld, but we can find that out. Alright, so thanks for watching.